Okay, so good morning again. So good morning to everyone. So we're back, and it's a new mindful morning series, and I keep slightly changing the setup of the words, but broadly looking at 4 words. I'm looking at the word wise or wisdom, and how to basically, it's how we might tap into a different state of being, whether that's for a second, for a longer period, or even if we call it just a different awareness or a different focus. And that's going to be through the mind focus on the body and the breath, particularly in this first one, maybe the first two, where we're going to kind of integrate that and just see what that might offer us. So if we kind of acknowledge that we can take our awareness in a different place, that we can experience something slightly differently if we use these kind of practices and skills, then that may allow us to see the world slightly differently if we want to. And it might allow us to think that we maybe have different choices than we think we might have. So that's kind of maybe a big introduction to something that might feel very different in experience. So go with the flow. You choose how you sit, whether you sit on the ground or on a chair, and whether you have your eyes open or closed. We all want different things from that experience. But to kind of awaken ourselves to the moment and the day, it's a morning session, then it's still useful while we've got the light to kind of turn our gaze maybe towards the day, just as a way of acknowledging the day, of seeing things as they really are at this particular time. So we look out. I know you're all really interested in nature and being in nature, and you really appreciate your surroundings. And sometimes we really do that, and sometimes we just wander through it. We take the body through it, and it kind of gets missed. So it's even just for a moment, it's an opportunity to just see as things are. And already we talked about it, there's changes going on as autumn begins to arise. Yeah, we passed the equinox and colours are changing, temperatures are changing. The weather is always changing, the climate and the weather are always changing. But today is fairly quiet. It's offering a stiller place, maybe. The birds are more visible, and I can hear the birds a little bit today. So they're kind of getting on as they do, whatever the weather. And the trees, I'm quite lucky. I've got quite a few trees, and some trees get autumn quite quickly and some quite late. So I'm quite lucky with seeing things change quite early on. So you might have that lovely glow of an autumn colour, the yellows and the pinks and the reds arriving. So yeah, just being aware of that. And maybe you're warm, maybe you're less warm, but you know that on the outside there will be a refreshing, a freshness about the day. So just tuning into that. And there's a bit of a blue sky here. It's trying to show itself anyway. So as a promise to the day, and given what we're seeing, it's probably already a kind of heartfelt, positive nature to the day, hopefully. That's certainly my experience. So we can take that in, we can breathe that in, we can see it either through colour or through shapes or through movement or through sounds or through the changing light. Always there for us. So as we move from the outside to the inside, we always know that transition itself can kind of feel, you may be drawn to the outside, not want to let go, or you might not want to sit or whatever. So just again, experiencing that. And if you feel ready to sit on the chair and to find your comfortable but alert seat, so somewhere where you could have a sense of maybe the words I'm saying, you can tune in and tune out. It's up to you how that goes. And we all know we will be tuning out, because that's what the mind does. It kind of focuses on something and then gets a thought or a sense and moves out or moves away. And that's fine. That's what the practice is about that we have for the next 15, 20 minutes. So just allow that to happen. And if you wish to allow that to then return to the focus of the day. So finding our wiser selves, maybe through a little bit of movement. So whether your eyes are open or eyes are closed, we're just going to do a bit of movement to be really present to the body. So when we take ourselves out, we're not necessarily in the body at the same time. So if we come back to the body, one option is either to wriggle the toes or to do kind of like a double bounce with the heels. So I'm just going to do 2 bounces on my heels and pause. Another couple of bounces on my heels and pause. And another couple of bounces on my heels and pause. You may have just wriggled your toes or just had a sensation of pressing the feet into the ground, whatever that is. So we're kind of conscious of the bottom of our body, if you like, the feet, and get them a little bit more awake and a little bit more in contact with the legs. So we now might know we've got legs. And then again, if you want to just get a little bit more sense of the spine and that sense of uplift, then you can take one arm up and have a little bit of a reach, bring it down, and then just take the other arm up towards the sky and just have a little bit of a reach. You might do that twice, just so that you know where your arm is, your side body, your spine, how your arms are connected through the trunk to the legs, if you're having a little bit of a stretch, if that's not too strong. And then you return into your seat. So you'll have a little bit of a sense of the body now sitting, whether it's supported or unsupported by the chair. And you have a sense of the clothes on the body. So again, that wrap around of the clothes for a little bit of warmth, hopefully, and a little bit of comfort. And there'll be areas around the face and the hands where the body is kind of free to the environment that you're in. So important to kind of establish yourselves of being here, being present in the body. And feeling the breath in the body wherever you feel that. So because you've moved, you might have had a little bit of an increase in the breath anyway. Might be a little bit more present wherever you feel that, in the belly, in the rib cage, through the nostrils. So just know that we're a breathing body this morning. And we've seen the morning, present to that. So keeping as still as you wish, or moving as much as you need to. As we start a practice with a particular focus. So what we're going to do is just a really small movement. And the movement's going to be in the hands. And we're going to use one hand initially. So choose the hand that seems the most obvious hand to choose, which is usually the hand we're right with, to be honest. And really see if you can get a sense of the center of the palm. So the palm might be facing downwards onto the leg, or it might be facing slightly inward, or it might be facing towards the sky. So just have the most comfortable position for the hand and just see if you can get a sense of the center of the palm. So the hands are very sensitive. you might feel more of the fingers initially than you can of the palm, but just see if you can take your attention there. And if you're not quite sure, just imagine it, that will get you a step further into that sense of the palm. And then we're going to just kind of have a sense of movement from that position. So it's like the palm slightly raises and slightly falls, but it's a really small movement. And if you don't like the movement, or you don't feel it's helpful to move in that way, then just imagine that there's that kind of rise and fall of the hand. But I've got my palm facing down at the moment. You may or may not. And I'm not taking my fingers away from the thigh, but I know there's a kind of rise and fall. And I'm doing my best to focus that rise and fall on the center of the palm rather than thinking I'm pushing from the fingers. And you'll find your own rhythm. And you're looking at an easeful movement. And one image that might be useful is kind of like some form of sea creature, an octopus or something that's in the sea that kind of has a natural way of moving through water. So you feel supported in the movement. You feel an ease and a freedom in the movement. And you feel a fluidity. Yeah, that's why the kind of water image may or may not help. And even from your own experience in water, you may get that sense of what it's like to be fluid, get held by water rather than by feet on the ground. And then pause that hand. Still have a sense of where the center of the palm is. And that hand might just feel a little bit different to the other hand. And it might still feel a bit sea creature-ish, even if you pause. And then turn to the other hand that you've left till second. It's turn, and that might feel a bit different. It might not feel as easy to move. It might feel a bit more clunky, clicky. It might not feel as easy to find the center of the palm. And it might move differently. The rhythm might change. You might feel you preferred the first movement because you were more in control, or it felt more easeful. But giving yourself time to tune in to just a different experience, different sea creature, that's all. To find a subtle rise and fall of the movement. Small if possible, but if you need to, even if it's for a moment, make the movement a little bit bigger to kind of get the sense, that's fine. Be as fluid as you can. And then pause in with the second hand. Relaxing the shoulders, just softening the jaw around the eyes if that's tensed up a little bit. So we're going to do the same thing, and you can choose if you feel like you want to use one hand, use one hand. If you want to use the other hand, if you want to use both hands, use both hands. So it's all options are available. And what you're looking to do is to have the movement in line with the breath. So you go back to the breath first. You notice when you breathe in and you make one of the movements, you either raise or fall, you choose. And then you notice the out breath and you go to the opposite. Yeah, so there's a rise and there's a fall. And if possible, it's breath led. So there might be a fraction of a second pause before the movement as you notice the breath. And then there may be a change in the breath, and then a fraction of a second later, there's a movement with the body. And it doesn't always feel kind of easy to follow. So if it's feeling like, oh, this is hard work, or I can't quite do this, then just be patient and see whether things change. And if they really doesn't feel right, then obviously you go to the rhythm and you just try and notice the breath at the same time. So sometimes that fluidity can feel more light if it follows the breath. But obviously it also makes a difference how the breath's feeling this morning. If feeling cold, the breath will feel maybe again a little bit more jumpy. Whereas the breath is like a breeze, the movement is like a subtle movement in the breeze, if you like, following that process. And it might mean that the movement has to be smaller, faster, slower than you started with. So if it has messed your breath up in any way because you're trying to change it, then just let the breath be rather than realizing that what you're doing is you're sort of making it a bit clunky or sticky or forced. You want the breath to feel happy and do its own thing. Okay, and then pause that for a moment. And just come back to the breath on its own, so you can allow the breath to get back to, if it needs to get back to, its own equilibrium. So if you had your hands facing your body or hands facing each other, what I'm just going to suggest for a brief practice is that you turn the palm towards the sky, if you like, towards the space. And that's going to be a different experience. And it's not always easy to sit with the hand like that. So we won't do it for too long. If it feels easy to have both hands doing the same thing, do that. So again, it's a bit of a trial and error of what feels comfortable. So with the palm facing towards the sky, in that direction, whether you follow the breath in and out or not, so it's up to you. But get that movement from the center of the palm. So certainly if we weren't doing this before, it might feel quite different. It might feel a little bit more awkward to move the hands freely. But it'll also, just the whole orientation is out to the world rather than into the body. And that subtle difference might just change the experience of the movement. Okay, so we'll pause that because it's not always easy to have the wrist in that position or to move the hand in that way. So just get the hands comfortable again. So over the next few minutes, what we're going to do is we're going to move one hand onto the body. So we've kind of kept it on the body and then we've moved it to change the position of the hand to face towards the sky, towards space. Now we're going to take the hands to the belly. If that's comfortable, again, you just take it away if it's not comfortable. And you find a spot where the hand can rest comfortably, ideally. And you'll have more feedback there about the breath. So if you wish to, you can still do a little bit of the movement with the hands. I'd suggest that you do a little bit if you can, but if you prefer that you to just have the hand in that position and following the breath, because that feels more pleasant, and that's what you do. So there'll be a subtle movement of the belly for, I'm sure, all of us. So there'll be an in-breath and the belly will kind of come out to the hand a little bit more, and then the belly will go a little bit more in towards the spine. It might be very subtle because we're not moving very much at all. So having the hand on a moving body is again different than where we were before. So before we were moving the hand in relation to the body, and now the hand's largely being moved by the breath in the body. And the breath will change. And hopefully now you have a real sense of the center of the palm. Okay, so again, this is just a suggestion. So if you're really happy where you are, that's fine. But if you feel that you can manage to get the hands to the side of the rib cage, then do that. So either with the elbows out to the side, or if that's not comfortable, then your right hand goes to the left side of the rib cage and your opposite hand. So it's more of a hug. If that feels more pleasant for the shoulders, then you do that. And if you don't like either, you just go back to hand on the belly. So however you're doing this, see if you can just remind yourself that the spine can be kind of alert and alive, yeah. So without forcing anything, just remind the spine to just keep its integrity. So if you've got your hands on the ribs, then you'll have a different sensation. So it'll be the breath, but the body will be expanding outwards a little bit into the hands. And we might be able to track still the center of the palm. And that's not always that comfortable, so we won't stay any longer than that. So just getting your hands back to a comfortable place for a moment. If you need to just move the shoulders or move the head or move the feet, just to, smooth out any tension in the body. So the position that we'll kind of finish with is the hand on the heart space, so somewhere on the chest. But again, if you prefer the hand on the belly or the other hand on the belly, please do. So I'm giving lots of options today. So there'll be movement on through the chest. as the breath and movement of the chest come into the hands. And then there's a softening. So the sense there will be different. So we've been on a very soft area when we're on the belly. And we got a different sensation on the rib cage, that kind of two-sided expansion. And now we've got a rise and fall, and we've got our hand on a more solid structure, if you like, the bony part, the collarbone, sternum. So it's interesting that our hands are maybe kind of a very solid part of the body, yet we're calling it the heart space. So we can soften and have a soft connection there. If we kind of recognize this is a center, different way connected to the self, different way to connect to our being. So we might have a subtle difference of how we connect to the belly than how we connect to space around the heart. Really aware of the breath. We can even imagine movement of the lungs, holding the heart, and the heart having a connection with the lungs of breathing. And we can connect with the center of the palm and the heart space. So when you're ready, then releasing gently the hand from the chest and the heart space, somewhere comfortable, whether that's on the, returning the hand to the thighs or closer into the belly. And if you can, just for a moment, feeling that space in the center of the palms, don't need to move them. And reconnected with sensation of the belly, sensation of the rib cage expansion, and the heart space. So a lot of awareness there, different places in the body, different movement, different sensations. Being present to how we are, how we connect. Maybe there's some subtle change. Maybe that's not clear, maybe it's very clear. How we are, how we're seeing ourselves, how present we are. And then when you feel ready, just moving the toes and the fingers. And when you feel ready, if the eyes are already still closed, then opening the eyes, fluttering the eyes, and being present to the space that you're in. And if you've still got a view accessible, then greeting the morning again, a bit more light maybe. So the colours will change. The outside will have a different sense as the light and the morning gathers. Hi there. So thank you for joining me. It's lovely, lovely, lovely to see you and to welcome the day with you. So thank you for coming and sharing some time together. You get Regards from Hilary, Kathy, some of you won't know. She only comes to the recording, and Ruth. So they're all kind of going to be around, but they'll be watching later. All right. Thanks very much. And I'll be back next week if you can make it. Thanks very much. Have a good day.